Shalom Aleichem Rabbi Isai. It's wonderful to see everybody. Last week we spent a little bit of time talking about Christianity, and then something interesting happened. Some of the Chavre asked me to put these things up on YouTube so that people could follow along and watch and whatnot. And then I got a whole bunch of responses, like people emailing me and commenting me. I don't get these things. This is not my wheelhouse. Yelling at me, saying that I'm creating divisions in the Jewish people and between Christian supporters of Israel, and how could I do such a thing? Okay, so I apologize. I just I want to apologize for offending anybody. Yeah.
When your wife yells at you, do you listen?
In theory. In theory.
You said what you said.
It's okay. Okay, in theory. Yeah, I'm saying. Okay. So, but within that context, I think it's important to address a particularly important and interesting discussion, which is the Rambam. There is a Rambam that's important to learn within the context of everything that we've been speaking about, and it requires a little bit of a Hagdama. It's a weird Rambam. Not Khalil to say anything weird in the Rambam. It's a weird Rambam. It's a weird Rambam because it's incredibly uncharacteristic. The Rambam at the end of Hilchos Malachim and almost at the end, in the Prakim where he deals with Geula and Mashiach and all of the sugyas a little bit that we are living in and talking about, the Rambam has a strange discussion where the Rambam asks almost like questioning the plan of HaKadosh Baruch Hu with regards to the world. I don't know if you've ever seen this Rambam before. If you haven't seen it, this is a treat, and it's disturbing on a number of levels. The Rambam asks the question, why does Hashem in the world, why does Hashem have Christianity and Islam? Right? So Rambam asks the question, why does Hashem have Christianity and Islam in the world? No, what do you say? Yeah?
Because people used to identify.
So there's a purpose here. And it's subtle. And we're going to be medaik in this Rambam a little bit, and then we're going to see bigadol, what exactly is going on. But before we can get to that, we should discuss the fact that there are, and this is going to sound a little bit weird, there are two versions of religion in the world. There are two versions of religion. Normatively, what like scholars of religion talk about is that they'll talk about Eastern religions and Western religions. And we'll talk about what Yiddishkeit is in a bit, but we'll introduce it with somewhat of a controversial, hot topic that pops up every couple of years, which is, and you'll see Hasidim and Misnagdim and rationalists and mystics are all weighing into this question. What happens to you after you die? Where do you go? Where do you go? Okay, so not a hard question to answer in terms of the guf. That we know what happens. The question is, what happens to the neshama? And here there is a split in opinions. Sometimes you will see svarim, discussions in Chazal and Chachamim, Midrashim, Mekubalim, that after your soul leaves your body, where does it go? To Gan Eden, or Gehenna, or both. Or it depends. But there is a place that's an up there place. It goes there. There's a there. And then there is, this is discussed at length by the Mekubalim, another mahalach, which is what happens to your neshama after you die.
Goes to a holding room.
I know that's still option one. It goes somewhere. Option number two is it comes back. What's that called? Gegulim, right? This is the controversial topic, which again, not to weigh in on this topic, bichlal, but what I want to point out here is that there are two worldviews here. In Yiddishkeit, both of them are true. Both of them are well-grounded, well-based, mahalchim lekan and lekan. But in terms of religions of the world, it's interesting to note that overwhelmingly, Western religions, we're talking about Islam and Christianity, believe that after a person dies, where does the soul go? Heaven. Goes there. And in Eastern religions, where does the soul go? Comes back. There are two versions of reality. There is a version of reality which is linear, and there is a version of reality which is cyclical. You understand what I'm saying? Meaning, if you were to ask somebody 100, 200, 500 years ago in the Far East, where is the world going? What's the world becoming? The answer is, it isn't. It is what it is, and it repeats over and over and over and over again. The cycle of life, right? That nature is cyclical, everything is cyclical, everything returns back to where it came from. And there is a constant recycling of everything. In Eastern religions, the goal is for you to find your place within that, whatever that means, according to whatever Chacham from the Umm you want to listen to. There's something cyclical within the world, and you come back over and over and over again. There is no beginning, there is no end, it just continues. This also found its way into the atheism of Greek philosophy, originally of Olam Kadmon, that the world has always existed, that there isn't a beginning, there isn't an end, there isn't a creator, there just is. It's a very naturalist understanding of the world where there's like nothing in charge, meaning there's systems, but there's no hashgacha, it is. And there are many, many, many different forces that are acting on a person at any different point in time. And this is part of the ancient pagan pantheism, that everything is cyclical and there isn't like an overarching system, it rolls. That's option number one. That's you know, the Altaim of paganism. Yeah.
Karma, personal karma.
Yeah, 100%. Meaning, but that, there's no like Chacham Dea God that controls that. That's like adjudicating. That's just like it is what it is. Everything is cause and effect, right? There's karma, there's dharma, shwarma. There's like a lot of. I apologize to the people that are offended by the gods of shwarma. Yeah, basically, whatever. Okay, right? By the way, that mamish repeats. The shwarma mamish repeats. Gewaldig. Over and over and over again. Baruch Hashem. You stay fleishiks for months. Shinizke. That's option number one. There's another option number two of religion, which is what they call Western religion. Was means das Western religion? Western religion is the world is progressing towards something better, right? It's always getting better. Or worse, but it's going somewhere. Meaning the world is not cyclical, the world is linear. It's supposed to be changing and shifting and moving and doing, and this is, progress. And the goal is to progress to the place that you want it to progress to, and not to progress to the place that you don't want it to progress to. This is the world of progress, yeah.
Perhaps a cyclical combined with linear?
Yeah, so that's called Yiddishkeit.
Yeah.
That's called Yiddishkeit. By the way, you have this, you already know this. I'll tell you how you know this, because we have two beginnings that exist in Yiddishkeit. There's something called Rosh Hashanah, and there's something called Rosh Chodesh. What does Chodesh mean? New. Chodesh. Something new. It's a chidushim. There's new things. There's a chiddush that occurs. And then there's something called a shana. What does shana mean?
Change.
Repeat. Right? It can also mean to change, but it means to repeat within the change. Meaning, the idea of a shana is it's coming back. It is cyclical. And the idea of a chodesh is it's a chiddush. It's new. It's new. Which is why in Yiddishkeit we have both the idea of Olam HaEmes and Gan Eden and Olam Haba as well as Gilgul and Neshamas, because depending on who and where and what and when and whatever the rules and rubrics are, both of them fit into the misgeret of the Ribbon Shalom as understanding that both of these things are necessary in the world, that there is something deeply cyclical about humanity and about the Bria and about the Tava, and there's also a linear progression of everything that is supposed to be, right? Both of these things within Yiddishkeit are true. And we're going to see this within the Rambam, because the Rambam obviously doesn't spell out all of these points in the point that he's about to make right now. But understand that the chiddush of Yiddishkeit that was picked up by Western religion is not in the cyclical nature of the world that the pagans have. That the pagans always had. Right? See what I did there? They always had it. Right? It always was. But there's a chiddush that Yiddishkeit introduces to the world, which is there's also linear progress. It's true that things repeat themselves, but there is a direction through which these things are supposed to end up going. And so the Rambam writes as follows. It says, Aval machshavas barim, take a look, this is at the bottom of the page, yeah? Aval machshavas barim olam ein koach ba'adam la'asigeh. The thoughts of the Ribbon Shalom we have no ability to comprehend. That's the first thing that we need to know, that the Ribbon Shalom is above and beyond all our comprehension. He says, Ki loy derech derachav v'loy machshavasenu machshavasav. This is paraphrasing from the Navi. Because our ways are not his ways and our thoughts are not his thoughts. He is above and beyond all thought and reason and far beyond what we can understand. And therefore he writes as follows. He says, V'chol hadvarim ha'elu sheli Yeshua noisri, and all of these things that have occurred in history with regards to Jesus. Ulazeh ha'yishmaeli she'amad achrav, and that Ishmaelit, that's talking about Muhammad. If that, I have to be careful that I don't have jihadis coming after me if I say that out loud. By the way, that one's very dangerous to say that one out loud. Yeah, no, right? What'd you say?
You don't have a photo.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. The Ishmaeli that came after him. Einam ela liyasher derech lemelech HaMashiach. The whole purpose of Islam and Christianity is to introduce the idea of to be miyasher derech lemelech HaMashiach, to pave the way, to straighten the road for the idea of a melech HaMashiach. Uletakenes ha'olam kulai la'avodas Hashem biyachad, and to fix the whole world so that the whole world serves Hashem together. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, Ki az efeich el amim safa berura, then I will flip around for all of the nations a safa berura, a clarity of speech, clear language, to call out in the name of Hashem and to worship Him as one unit together, that there is something deeply humanistic, universalistic about Mashiach. The idea of Mashiach is not, and this is, by the way, Yiddishkeit is a chiddush in this. There's many chiddushim that Yiddishkeit has that the world has no idea about. But the one is that we don't believe in Mashiach for the Jews. It's Mashiach for the world. It's not that Mashiach comes and they're like, oy vavoy to everybody else. No, it's good for everyone. It's good for everyone. I mean, the Christian version of the Messiah is like the Messiah comes, then either he comes Nochamal, right? And then if you accept him, then good for you, and if not, Hatzlacha Rabbah, right? Sayonara, peace out. We'll see you never. The Muslim idea of the Mahdi, of the Muslim Messiah, is that, well, then everybody is going to be Muslimized. I think that's the official. I don't know. It's I'm not such a bucky in Muslishkeit. I think that's the official word, right? But then everybody. But says the Rambam, quoting the pasuk in Tzvanya, that's not how it works. Mashiach is Mashiach for everybody. It's going to be good for everybody. It's going to happen. I mean, the whole thing is going to be good for everybody.
But aren't a lot of these people going to want to become Jewish after that?
No. Yeah, I want to be very clear, and this is important to understand. The Torah believes in two religions. One God, but two religions. The Torah believes in a religion called Yiddishkeit. Right? Yiddishkeit. What is Yiddishkeit? Taryag mitzvahs, 613 mitzvahs. Right? 248 positive mitzvahs, 365 negative mitzvahs, and that is our obligation. That the Rebbeinu Shalom said, you guys, this is what you do. In exchange for this, for doing this thing, what you are granted is, and we've spoken about this before, is eternity. You, Klal Yisrael, your job is to do this forever, and that brings the world to that derech that it's supposed to go in. And the deal that Hashem makes with Avraham Avinu is, I grant you and your children for all eternity, nitzchis. No one will ever be able to destroy your children, your nation. You continue forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. That's the guarantee. It doesn't make it easy. Sometimes it makes it hard. Sometimes it makes it painful. But that's the avodah of Klal Yisrael. That is one religion. That's our right and responsibility. Then there is another religion. There's another religion that's called ethical monotheism, what we refer to as Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, the 7 mitzvahs of B'nai Noach. If a non-Jew accepts upon themselves Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, do they need to accept upon themselves Taryag mitzvahs? No, Bichlal lo. Absolutely not. They don't have any obligation to do so, and we recommend that they don't. I mean, there's no. The Torah doesn't require a non-Jew to become a Jew. There are two religions with one God. It's a chiddush of the Torah. No other religion in the world believes in two valid religions. We do. We have no problem with the nations of the world being the nations of the world. Mazel tov. There's nothing wrong with being a good non-Jew. There's nothing wrong with it. We don't need them to convert now. We don't need them to convert later.
What do you let them later?
I'm sure that there will be a kufa like the days of Shlomo HaMelech that they didn't let them. Right? They didn't let them. It's an interesting discussion what it means in the Megillah of Rabim Me'amei Ha'aretz Misyadim. It's a long discussion. Remind me Purim time. We'll talk about it. Right? There's a lot to discuss. But be'ikar, it's important to understand that as far as the Torah is concerned, there are two religions. There's nothing wrong with a non-Jew staying a non-Jew.
But after Mashiach comes, aren't they going to see that their religions were false?
The Ovdei Avodah Zarah are going to abandon their Avodah Zarah. But I'm saying monotheism is part of the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. Right? If you observe Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, that means you're a monotheist, you don't murder, right? You don't engage in sexual licentiousness. You don't steal. You don't curse God. You don't eat every menachai, and you establish systems of courts and laws. That means you are an excellent citizen of the world. That's called Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong. And the goal is that eventually, that everybody will serve Hashem together means observing Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, believing in one God. That's the goal here. That is the goal. Says the Rambam Halacha Yud Beis. Ketzad, how does this operate? The world is already been filled. We're talking the 11th century here. The world has already been filled with the words of Mashiach. And the words of the Torah and the words of the mitzvahs. And these things have already spread all to the far-flung islands. Right? Meaning the idea of Torah, the Torah and the idea of Torah has spread everywhere. And amongst many nations of uncircumcised hearts, meaning people that had no idea about anything to do with morals and values and monotheism and human rights, which is a chiddush of the Torah, right? And they discuss these things. This is part and parcel of normative, substantive discussions over mitzvahs of Torah. And with regards to the mitzvahs of the Torah, there are those that say that they're true, but they don't exist anymore. That's Christianity, Right? They were true, but they're not true anymore. They don't exist forever. It says, and there are those that say that there are mystical ideas behind them. And they're not to be understood in the simplest sense. It says, the Mashiach has already come. Has revealed all of their secrets. What's going to happen? When the real Mashiach comes, and he'll be successful, and he will rise up, and he will be exalted. Everybody will return and understand that the story about Mashiach that they believed in was not true. And that their prophets and their ancestors have misled, that they mislead them, and this whole thing. The idea is true, the application was not. Says the Rambam, the chiddush that the Torah brought into the world, of the idea of a linear progression, meaning that there is progression to the world, that we're supposed to be doing something, supposed to be achieving something, supposed to be going in a particular direction, that idea is the chiddush of the Torah, that we were supposed to, if we hadn't messed up and Beis HaMikdash had been destroyed, we were supposed to be the people that educated that to all of humanity. We didn't. So part of that mission has been given over to other people, so that by the time we have been chayzrim b'tshuva and we come back to Eretz Yisrael, we're not going to start from square one. Meaning that other people have been assisting in getting this idea out there, that the world is supposed to be moving in a particular direction, and that the idea of Mashiach, and that the idea of mitzvahs, and the idea of revelation, the idea of Torah, that all of these ideas are true. They misunderstand the how and the why and the what and the who, but the idea is true. Now, I want to share just something fascinating with you. Along these lines, there is a fascinating trend in all of Western literature, fiction, in all of Western literature, that by its very nature, it's all messianic. Meaning, if you from the Disney idea of like, and they lived happily ever after, meaning that things will progress to a point where things work out well, to Lord of the Rings, right? Seriously, the destruction of evil at the end of Lord of the Rings, to Star Wars, right? Meaning that balance will be restored in the Force, to Harry Potter, that Voldemort will be defeated, meaning the idea that evil will be overcome and that the world will get better. That's what the Rambam is talking about here. This is the legacy of all of Western literature. The idea that the world is progressing and getting better and moving towards a particular place. That we're supposed to be moving in a particular direction. That we're supposed to be doing this. This is a chiddush that Baruch Hashem, we were zoche that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, somehow or another, has ensured that the world doesn't forget this even when Klal Yisrael is in Galus. And that we don't forget this, this idea of Mashiach, the idea that the world is supposed to be getting better and better and better, that there is progress to be made, that we're not just returning back to the same thing over and over again. Yeah. What about it?
That's only a step forward.
So Gog and Magog is... I don't know if we can do this in 4 minutes. But I'll say al regel achas. Gog and Magog, it's a Tanchuma. The Arizal speaks about this, and you see this in many of the Sfarim. It's important to understand just very al regel achas, that the idea of Gog and Magog, firstly, is not a war between Gog and Magog. It is Gog from Magog. And the Gematria, says the Medrash Tanchuma, of Gog and Magog is... Who's good at Gematrias here? Gog and Magog is 70. Shivim, 70. Says the Arizal that the Milchama of Gog and Magog is the 70 nations of the world coming into conflict with Klal Yisrael. With Klal Yisrael, with us. Meaning that there is a clash that occurs towards the end of this process of progress, where all of the ideas of the nations of the world are going to come up against the idea of Klal Yisrael. And in that milchama, Klal Yisrael will prevail, and that will be the revelation of the truth of Klal Yisrael, as opposed to Sheneviem v'avosem hitum. Right? Meaning there is a milchama. That doesn't mean that something rolls over and over and over and over and over again until a breaking point. That's not what we're saying here. We're saying that there is a progress that occurs, and this is why all of the Sfarim talk about the fact that Gog uMagog is not a single battle. Gog uMagog is at least multiple battles, and this David HaMelech speaks about in Tehillim. You say this in Hallel. Kol goyim sabuni b'shem Hashem ki amilam, sabuni gam sabuni b'shem Hashem ki amilam, sabuni kidvarim, da'achu ke'eshketzim b'shem Hashem ki amilam. Take a look at the Mefarshim in that parak of Tehillim, that at least 3 rounds of Milchamas Gog uMagog, yeah.
How can we go to the world getting better? I mean, compared now to 10 years ago, we don't see it getting better.
So for this it's a good question. How come we don't see the world getting better? So I beg to differ. I think that there are things that are better and things that are worse. Bigadol, I want to say something that might not be so makubal to say. But if you ask right now, October 7th was terrible. Muslim, everybody agrees that was the worst tragedy that has happened to the Jewish people since the Holocaust. But, that being said, is Israel better or worse now than it was on October 6th 2 years ago? Hold on. Is Israel better or worse? Undoubtedly better. Undoubtedly better. Right? Undoubtedly better. Meaning, Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, Syria, we're doing better. Right?
Tremendously weakened.
Right? We are doing much better than we were 2 years ago. Absolutely, much better. Much, much better. Is overwhelmingly, in the general trajectory, and again, because remember, we're looking at trends, we're not looking at points. Anti-Semitism?
Forget about the anti-Semitism.
I'll tell you a secret.
You can see it more.
You now know about the anti-Semitism that you didn't want to know about. I'll tell you, nobody was megala the fact that they hate Jews. It's not like they woke up, they're like, maybe I should hate Jews today. It was there, it was a messianism. Now it is out in the open. We have more Yediyah. We now recognize, we recognize that there's more anti-Semitism going. Is the world overall trending upwards? Pashut yes. Pashut yes. Are there areas that things have gone down and areas that things have gone up? Yes. Is the trend of the world up? If you looked at, if you were betting on humanity, if you were investing in humanity, long-term investment in humanity, this is the chiddush of the Torah, and that Rav Kook speaks about over and over and over and over again, that the world is trending upwards.
I would invest in...
In what way?
It's still killing people in Africa.
You're 100% right. Poverty today is at its lowest rate in the last 500 years. Infant mortality today is at its lowest rate in all of human history. Right? The amount of people that are living below the breadline today is lower than it's ever been. People dying of preventable diseases today is lower than it's ever been. The world is way better. It's way better than I've made this point before to Chavra, that Reb Chaim Soloveitchik, the great Reb Chaim, had running water for 4 years of his life, maybe. Meaning, just before the First World War, they bombed. They put in running water. He shared an apartment, meaning it was top floor and a bottom floor. He shared an apartment with Rav Simcha Zelagriga, his Talmid Chaver, who was the Dayan of Brisk. Shared an apartment with him. Upstairs, downstairs, just before, like 3-4 years before the First World War, they put running water in. They saved up enough money to put running water in, and then it got bombed by the Germans in the First World War, and they never got running water again. Reb Chaim used an outhouse. You understand? Like, Our life is much, if you were to describe your life to your great-great-grandmother, she would say, you are living in Yemos HaMashiach.
No question about it.
Poshut. It's better than it's ever been. It's better than it's ever been. And I've made this point before, that La'aniyas Daiti, feel free to disagree with me. But Jews of Boca and the 5 towns and Los Angeles today are wealthier than any Jewish community since the days of Shlomo HaMelech.
No question about it.
What do you mean it was getting better? It's better. It's much better. If I could pick out of a hat any door to be born in the last few thousand years, who wouldn't want to be born now? It's much better. Of course it's better. Are there problems? Yeah, there's problems. Every door has problems. Is it better now? Yes.
Yeah, but
Undoubtedly better.
for the Goyim it's not better because they hate the fact that the Jew is rising.
So that depends on whether you hate the fact that the Jew is rising. If you hate the success of the Jewish people, then the world is worse for you. That's true. But that's your problem. I mean, not your Khalil.
That's
Right?
their problem.
Yeah. We have to finish. Yes.
Conclude. So we're saying that the Christians and the Muslims the road for hope while we were in Dulles.
Yes.
They've been bringing the message forward, although it's messed up.
Yeah. Meaning HaKadosh Baruch Hu ensured. Again, machshavas bari olam in koach ba'adam la'asigem. We don't understand the Ribbono Shel Olam, but says the Rambam, from my perspective of history, and the mission of Klal Yisrael is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is ensuring that by the time the Jewish people get back to Eretz Yisrael, it won't be a chiddush to the world that the world should get better. That's the Nakuda here. And we didn't get a chance to see how Rav Kook ties this in, but Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, next week.